y'all, it's your girl Cheryl Underwood, and I'm working on my podcast, but the podcast I want you to check out is the Rome Show podcast. I heard they doing it right.
There's some, oh, sorry. Are we going?
Yeah, we live.
Okay, yeah, go right ahead. There's some music in the background, so just making sure it wasn't getting in the way, but hey, here we are.
Nah, it's all good. Well, welcome to the Rome Show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So, Paul, you're a legend in the entertainment industry, TV host. So how did it all get started?
Oh man, it all started in high school, which is the crazy part. So we had this broadcasting class, and I don't know if you had one of those, but it's kind of like where all the students got to do like um, the weather, news, sports, that kind of stuff. And I looked nothing like I should be on TV. I kind of like long hair, rock t-shirts, looked like I just woke up because I did. And so they had us just do kind of, they put me on the weather. And so here I was just kind of holding the mic, monotone, like, today it's, and squinting to see this thing in a screen. Today it's 70 and sunny, like that kind of thing. And I thought they were just doing it as just kind of a joke. I figured I'd be a better camera operator. And so then we had to do our own individual segments. And the teacher said, well, you like music, go talk to some bands. So guess what I did? I took the big clunky video cameras, and me and my friend Joe, we went downtown and we knocked on every studio door, every side door, every bus door, every backstage door in Philadelphia. And every last band, well, we'd be like, hey, the show sucks. Will you be on it? And every last band, musician, comedian, said, yeah, sure, kid. And they talked to us. And I came back, and the teacher smacked his head and he goes, I meant bands in the school, but good job. I don't know how you did that. And that kind of just set off something. I wanted to do like a MTV kind of thing where I was just sitting down with the best artists. And then, so I went to school at Penn State, and I did kind of the same thing. I worked in a record store, managing a record store, and we had some artists come by, and I interviewed them. And then, and then, I really had no business interviewing anybody. And so we had one of the very first online music magazines. And then, I just started getting bigger and bigger interviews. And so by the time I graduated college, I had interviewed all kinds of legends just because they all said yes. So it's a crazy way to go about it, but it worked out.
Right. And at that time when you were getting these interviews and you were supposed to just interview like people around the college, how do you feel about that now? Because you was like pretty much ahead of your game.
Yeah, I mean, it's very strange. So I remember sitting in the hotel room of John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin, and riding in a van with Mick Taylor from the Rolling Stones, and just being like a kid and just go, like, if you've ever seen that movie Almost Famous, that's kind of what it was like, except for, I wasn't, going to parties with them or anything, but I just being able to get in the door, being able to watch people from the side of the stage and just having those conversations. And a lot of it came from just asking the question, you know what I mean? Just to, hey, will you talk to me? And so it's pretty cool thing, but really bizarre now that I think about it. People are like, that's how you got started? Because yeah, I don't have any friends in the business. I didn't have any family in the business. I just kind of did it. I didn't wait for permission to do it.
Right. You just jumped out and went and did it.
Yeah, just did it.
Um, the entertainment media has changed like a lot, like digital platforms, social media. How have you adapted your approach as like the industry continues to evolve?
Of course, you got to do it the right way. You can't just kamikaze people. I guess it was kind of like the early version of TMZ, right? Just kind of going up to people. Except I wasn't trying to do anything controversial. A lot of times they're trying to just get a rise out of people or get that quotable thing. I was just curious about people. But, everything's got to go through the proper channels. But now it's so much easier because you can find people's information. Back then, it was kind of like the Wild West. You're just kind of like, well, I don't know how to get a hold of them. I'll just ask them, And now, there's layers of people to go through. There's management, there's publicists, but all that stuff is so readily available. And I kind of wonder, like, how many people I would have talked to had I had the proper information, because now I do great interviews. So people see those and they go, hey, we got another client you should talk to. Or, oh, hey, we've got this other guy that's in this big movie. Or you may have heard of this composer. Like all of a sudden, like you're just in this good world because they know that you're going to do a good interview. And that's a big part of it too, is I think there's been so many influencers and people that have been given a chance, and then they just kind of play dumb games with them. You know what I mean? Like they like word association games, things that have nothing to do with anything, or they try and surprise them with like weird questions, and people don't like that. So I think just by staying consistent, but also doing it in the proper way. Because there's been plenty of opportunities where I've been at a party with people, or I've been, in a dinner or a sensitive situation, and I probably could have pulled them aside for a few minutes just to get that really good, interview, and I just don't. So there's certain rules to play by, but also I kind of do things my own way too.
Right. And when you're stuck in that moment, like should I go ask now or should I just wait till next time? How do you detect like whether to go ask or just wait?
Usually, I'm my whole job is to read people, so I just feel it out, and because sometimes the thing is the artist or the actor, whoever it is, does want to give you the time. They do want to talk, or they like you, and yeah, sure. There's people I know that I'm friends with that are famous people that if I went through the chains that you like to ask the questions, they probably like. Someone along the way be like, oh, no, they're not doing interviews right now, or they're very busy, or whatever, And if I were to call them, they would say, yeah, sure. I remember distinctly I was when I was in college, there's a singer named Elliott Smith that I really wanted to interview. I really loved his music. And they said, he had a new album coming out. So I made the request, and they said, oh, no, he's not doing interviews right now. And so but they gave me tickets to a show. So this was at the Trocadero in Philadelphia, which is a weird spot. It's in Chinatown. And so I'm coming around where the back door, I parked on the street, and I'm coming around the back door, and who walks in? The Elliott Smith, going towards the inside. And I just said, oh, hey, I just wanted to say hi to you. I know you're not doing interviews right now, but, hopefully someday. And he goes, who told you that? He's like, I've got a new
Oh
album.
wow.
Of course I want to do them, And he said, yeah, well, I'd be happy to talk to you. And I was like, oh, great. And I said, well, I'll get back in touch. Well, he passed away, and I never got that chance to talk to him, but had I just, been ready and said, well, hey, let's do it. I mean, he was standing right there doing nothing. And so that's happened a couple of times. There's been a few times where I just did not take the chance. And I said, oh, we'll do it later. Sometimes later never comes, or situations change. And so I think that kind of thing, part of it is taking the chance while you have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And since you did so many interviews with so many legends and stuff, is there an interview that challenged you the most professionally or personally? And what did it teach you?
Oh man, I think there's certain people like, so what I always say, because people always say, oh, who's nice, who's not nice, that kind of thing, and the thing is, I always say everyone can behave for 10 or 15 minutes, and if they can't, they usually just don't do interviews, or they don't do them at the time. But I remember specifically interviewing Mel Gibson, and him being like, he had gotten in some trouble, and I think they were very careful as to who talked to him, because they didn't want somebody just doing that gotcha question, because it happened, and it happened a few times during that time. And I remember he just seemed very nervous. He's picking at his, scratching and picking at his arm hair, and just kind of like, looking down, and just looking really kind of grumpy, and it really threw me off, because usually, I mean, a lot of these people are actors, or they know how to, even, musicians, they know how to play cool for a little while, but he just and he was just so into his answers were incredible though, but just his mannerisms and just his general nervousness, like is what really threw me off. So sometimes it's like that, And then, I've had a couple of people cry during interviews, not because of something I've said, but, just because they're telling a story and it brought something up. And you're just like, oh gosh, what do I do? Do I, do I give them a hug? Do I just kind of sit there and let them wait it out? That kind of thing. Cause, you don't really know them. And then other times, you never know. Like, I've interviewed people that were drunk. I interviewed a singer of a band that was so hammered and said such crazy things. I'm like, I can't use this. But for the most part, everybody's usually pretty cool. And if they're doing it, and if they've agreed to do an interview, then they're pretty um, they're pretty good at it.
Right. And I seen that you interviewed Shaquille O'Neal. How was
Yeah.
that? That's
Well,
epic right there.
good, except for I'm 6'1", he's 7'1". So when he stands there, you kind of, that's another thing that kind of throws you off. And he also has this really low kind of voice, and it's funny too, because you kind of got to really listen to what he's saying, and he's up there. So, but the interesting part is that I've had some friends who've worked with him, so I've had the pleasure of being around him several times. So we have a good rapport when I see him. In fact, I just saw him not too long ago because he lives in the Dallas area. And so, so what's funny is he's one of the nicest people, but he's got this great sense of humor. So sometimes he'll just give you silly answers, but somebody like that is just a total pro, total legend, and he a really really nice guy. You see all the stories about him being nice to people and buying stuff for people in stores and things like that. It's totally true, because the guy can't go anywhere without being recognized. I remember we were in Cleveland one night, and and all these girls were running up to him at this event trying to take pictures with him, and they're trying to do selfies, and they're probably five something and he's 7 feet tall, and they're trying to get that right angle, and and I said, I wonder, do any of those pictures turn out? And he goes, probably not. So
Right.
it's just kind of funny, but yeah, people like that are just so great. And that's the other thing, is that a lot of the biggest people are the nicest people because they have nothing to prove, nothing to worry about. It's always the people that are on the way up that are trying to make it look like a big deal. Like they got this entourage, or they got all these people, or oh, we got to do this, or we're not going to do that. The big people are like, I don't care. We're like, yeah, what do you need? You know.
Yeah. That's a good point right there too.
hmm
After you interviewed him, did you think to yourself like, yeah, I just interviewed Shaq? Like, did you get extra excited
Yeah,
or
what's funny is so on a red carpet where it's already loud and there's already people around, you know, uh, taking pictures and trying to get his attention and things like that. You're putting a mic up there and you're just hoping that like you can hear what comes out. So for that particular one on the red carpet, I remember being like a little worried, like I hope it turned out okay, and it did. And then when I saw him at a festival, kind of same thing. It's like, because the thing is, when he goes anywhere, like you can't help but notice him, So it's kind of a spectacle anywhere, and also he's nice. He's not like trying to run from people either. So, so you
Mhm.
could be in the middle of a conversation and people try and come up, hey, what's up, Shaq? Or like, hey, big fella, and just kind of, always on him. So it's an interesting thing. You don't really see much like that, in other interviews.
yeah. And how do you balance like professionalism with personality when you're engaging with high profile guests?
It's interesting because some people are just so open. They kind of like ask me anything, and they don't require you to, um, you know, even tell them, like, because a lot of times people say, oh, submit the questions or whatever, and I usually don't do that because first of all, I don't know what I'm going to ask them. I know generally what I'm going to ask them. I know that I'm going to ask them about what they're promoting, and I'm going to ask them kind of about their mindset and kind of a crazy story about how they made it, why they still do it, that kind of thing. So I have a general kind of blueprint, but everything else is just kind of in bonus in conversation. And I think there's a lot of people that really do uh, appreciate that. Um, but but yeah, there are certain things that journalist versus who you're interviewing. But then sometimes a funny thing happens. Sometimes you get along really well with them and they want to give you their number, or they invite you to a party, or there's been people that now, like, I travel with, I hang out with, and if I was trying to be a traditional journalist, oh no, like there's a separation, then there'd be a separation, but there's not. You can be friendly with people. It doesn't matter, like if someone wants to continue the conversation, they want to go out to eat with you, why not? So I don't know. It just depends on who you ask, though. But there are other people that have sort of those strict rules of like, oh no, they're not my friends. They're not, that kind of thing. And I think that's silly. Like we're all just we're all just humans looking for connection, And if you connect with somebody, great, you know.
Right. And what's one thing that you haven't done yet that you want to do?
It's a good question. I kind of so I put out this book called Going For It, and in it is I interviewed about 350 people about their advice, life, what they do differently, and the crazy stories about how they made it. And I thought, well, that's pretty good. I did it. Like it's funny, you get to that point. It's like when someone says, "Oh, like I want to have a TV show," and then they have the TV show. Okay, well now what? And so I've done that too, and I've been able to do some of the coolest things in the world, and I've been able to go to like some of the greatest events in the world and hang with the most amazing people, and I keep sort of moving the bar up just a little bit. Right now I'm working on a show called the Going For It Show, which is kind of all about motivation and mindset, and kind of all the celebrity stuff that I've done. And I think that's kind of the next big thing, because I've been on TV shows for years, um, but it's always been with a group of people or in support of other people. Like I was on the show with Drew Pearson. We've been doing this for 13 years now, but it's still Drew Pearson show, And with Inside Entertainment, I had a co-host. With Let's Go DFW, I had a bunch of co-hosts. So, it's kind of one of those things, stepping out on your own is like, whew, it's a lot. But really, what I do want to accomplish is getting this book in schools and libraries, because I finished book 2 and I'm working on 3, and there's enough for part 4. So it's really, I just want to be able to inspire people. So if I can get to that point to where I have that audience to, inspire a mass amount of people, then great. That's what I want to do.
Right. And can you hold the book up one more time?
Yeah, of course. Here we go. Going for it. That's
Nice. I
it.
gotta get one.
Yeah. Oh,
You know,
absolutely. Be happy to send you a copy. And so, also, Drew Pearson wrote the foreword to it, and he's quite the legend himself. The original '88 caught the Hail Mary, and this is the 50th anniversary this month of the Hail Mary. So, it's kind of a big deal, and it's funny actually to watch. That's another funny thing, is watching other celebrities be interested in what other celebrities do, because all the actors want to meet the athletes, and all the athletes want to meet the actors and musicians, and so it's a good love fest. So we've had a lot of people that are really famous, like Hugh Jackman, that are fans of Drew Pearson, that like want to know more about him. Like Jeremy Piven turned the interview around and wanted to just ask Drew questions rather than us asking him questions. So you never know what you're going to get.
right. And so the book, where can they buy it, and how much it costs to purchase it?
It is $24.95 as far as I know. It's funny. I'm probably the worst in business as far as, like, I let other people handle all that stuff. I always just say I'm the talking monkey or the typing monkey, and I just kind of do the work. And then, like, I generally don't edit things, and I don't, or at least the videos, and I don't know all the fancy ways to make the videos look great. I just kind of go, all right, here's the good stuff. Please do something good with it. And but the book is on Amazon. It's online in Target, Barnes and Noble, Walmart. So you can find it in all kinds of places.
Congrats. That's a
And
big
and
move right there.
also goingforitbook.com.
Nice. And it's basically about all your moves and all your success.
Yeah, so it's divided into 3 sections. There's advice, where I ask them all their advice, what they tell other people. Wisdom, which is kind of all the things they've learned, and kind of their success mindset, and then Hail Mary moments. So Drew caught the original Hail Mary. And so we love to ask people their Hail Mary moment, which is that moment in your life or career. You just had to go for it and it worked out for you. And those answers are crazy. There's people who have slept in their cars, they borrowed money, they've been homeless, they've been hungry, they've dressed up like waiters to pretend to get into an event. It's nuts. And so it's just all about what they've done to get where they are. And I think it's a good blueprint for a lot of people who are thinking, I don't know how to do this. And I think there's a lot of people who are like that. I was like that. Like, this is the book that I wanted to have when I was a kid.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely got to get one.
Yeah.
And who's the biggest celebrity that you interviewed or worked with?
Hmm. Tom Cruise, it doesn't get much bigger than him. And he's the best. You want to talk about professionalism? If he needed the money, he could teach a class on how to do it, how to be a famous person. Like, he asks your name and he doesn't forget it, and uses your name throughout the interview. And wants to take a picture with you at the end. Sometimes he'll say, let's do another one, make sure it turned out all right. Like, I mean, he is, and he uses your name again to greet you, ask you if there's anything else that you want or anything else you need to know, even though he's got to go. It's just such cool professionalism. But I mean, Beyonce, Willie Nelson, Richard Branson, there's all kinds of people, Metallica, Tiesto, the people that are the biggest in the world, and even historical figures like Buzz Aldrin. Like, they're all just so cool and just so willing to share their wealth of knowledge, which is a pretty amazing thing. And I just, it's one of my great honors in life to be able to do that, and then also to pass it along. I felt like I have this cosmic responsibility to let other people know what I know. It's been this wonderful university of life for me, but like, it doesn't do any good if I don't have any students, right?
Right. And congrats on that. Those are mega stars
Thank you.
right there.
Thank you.
Has there ever been a time where you were doing an interview at an event and you just was like, I gotta get out of here?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Not like a Diddy party kind of way, but like, no, it's there's been plenty of situations where you just kind of got to feel it out. Some situations are bad too. Like, there are situations where, um, like in certain premieres or whatever, and it's just kind of a mess. They A lot of times they want you to show up early, and then they bring them in super late, and then they go, okay, well, we got to go, and then you suddenly realize that you're just an extra in their scene. They want this whole media look, like they want the media waiting around, clamoring for their quotes, for their sound bites, and they want to just be able to go by and wave hi and don't waste our time. But I mean, that kind of stuff happens. And so, I just try and feel it out. If it's a waste of time, then it's time to cut and run. But for the most part, I think that, it's just been, it's good to try and wait it out and see. You never know like what's going to happen. And I'm total proof of that, because I get a lot of opportunities that come at me just from being in the right room and being in the right place at the right time.
Nice. And was there ever a time where, like, early on in your career, where you're going to get some interviews and like people just like really rude? You're like, you're just getting those. Did you care? You're like, basically, that's like, yeah, let me just keep trying.
Yeah. There's sometimes, because it's funny. I think people expect these people to always have great days and always be, perfect and on top of their game. But sometimes people are just off, and sometimes it's a wash. There's almost never been a time where I've gotten nothing out of somebody, because the thing is like, even if they're just not in the best mood, or something happened, because you never know what's going on in their lives. They could be going through a divorce, could be having problems with their kids. There could be something just collapsed on them, and they're not going to tell you. And it's probably better that they don't, because they'd sit there and you'd be sad with them about it. So, but I think talking to people about why they do what they do, and what sets them apart, why they get up in the morning, because there's so many people that have made enough to where they never have to work it again a day in their life that I talk to, but they still do it, you know. And some days I think when it's stressful, I go, look, if I had enough to buy an island, I would, and I'd be like, see you later. And so it's really cool to kind of learn from those people. But no, I think, you know, there are bad situations, but I think there's a whole bunch of ways to make them better too.
Nice. Oh yeah, we got the legend Paul,
Yeah,
author, book out. I appreciate you for coming on the podcast.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for having me, and I'm always open for questions, and if I can do anything to encourage anybody, I definitely will, because it's kind of my mission in life is just to make sure that people feel like that they could do it too, because I was that kid like, how do I do this, and so I feel like it's kind of my duty to make sure that I can help other people feel like they can too.
I appreciate it. Maybe we could do a part 2 soon.
I'd love that. That'd be great. Whenever you'd like. And thanks again for having me on, and hope y'all are going for it. Appreciate you.
Definitely, Paul. Have a good one.
Okay, thanks. You too.
All right, peace. Yes, sir. New episode. Shout out to Paul for coming on the podcast. Shout out to Paul for coming on the podcast. And don't forget to follow me on all podcast platforms, The Rome Show Podcast, Spotify, iHeart Podcast, Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Go Rome TV, or type in The Rome Show Podcast, and it's there. This is another epic episode. I appreciate everybody for watching, streaming the podcast. Much love. It's your boy Go Rome TV. Once again, shout out to Paul for coming on the podcast. Fire episode, and expect to see this one. Expect to see more. It's your boy Go Rome TV, and I'm out. Peace.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Cheryl Underwood, and I'm working on my podcast, but the podcast I want you to check out is the Rome Show Podcast. I heard they doing it right.